It's all about you. This is WYOU Sports Interactive.
Big night of sports tonight. Hockey news. Michelle Therrien fired as head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, replacing him as the interim head coach. Dan Bilesma from the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins, the 38-year-old, had the Penguins playing some great hockey in his first year as head coach. Now we'll try to right the ship up in Pittsburgh. And the other big story, Matt Kenseth passing Elliott Sadler at the Daytona 500. Then the rain would come. The race was red flagged, and Matt Kenseth gets the win in a rain-shortened Daytona 500 as the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series gets underway. Kenseth, the 2003 points champ, getting his first win at Daytona. Tonight we want to know what you think about NASCAR and the sport. Is it a sport? Are drivers athletes? Joining us once again on the phone is Joe Migok from the Pocono Record, and we're also joined by Nick Hughes, the WYOU Fan of the Week. Nick, thank you for stopping by.
No problem. It's a pleasure sitting in this big yellow chair.
So I have to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think about NASCAR? Are these guys athletes? Is it a sport? What's your thought?
Well, if you're a fan of it, really into NASCAR, it's a sport to you, but other people, just general people in the public, it's just like a thing you watch. And it goes for any other, like, little sport.
So you're going to say you don't think it's a sport?
No.
Even though they're going that fast with, you know, their life's literally on the line?
No, I don't agree with that.
How about that? He says no. Let's go to the phones. Bill, you there?
Oh, yes, sir.
Bill, what do you think? Is it a sport? Are these guys athletes?
I tend to look at it more of a skill. And one thing I have to say that makes me tend not to look at it as much as a sport is you have Joey Logano, who's 18, on the same track as Mark Martin, who's 50. And what other sport do you see an 18-year-old and a 50-year-old competing? I mean, you hit 50 in golf, you're on the senior tour usually. And not to say that they don't have great skill, they have phenomenal skill. But as far as an athlete along the lines of baseball, basketball, or football, I don't think it's quite the same. But I enjoy watching it very much regardless.
Joe, what are your thoughts on that? He brings up a good point. You know, you have such a big age difference there. I mean, but I guess you do have a chance on the nationwide tour if you're, or the nationwide tour, the nationwide circuit. If you do well enough, you move up.
I can understand what he's saying. You know, as far as, you know, comparing Logano to Martin, I look at that as you compare some of the older golfers who had such success, the really talented ones, guys like Jack Nicklaus, who even into his 50s, you would still see his name up there on the leaderboard in major tournaments with some of the younger guys. And you have a guy like Mark Martin, who's 50 years old. He's going to race full-time for Hendrick this year. I think he's going to have a lot of success. I think if the race stayed green today, he would have had a good chance to win. And Logano, it's hard to argue with what he's done at such a young age. Obviously, he struggled today. He struggled pretty much all week. But, you know, he's a young kid, and he'll bounce back. But I can understand what the caller's saying, but I also look at it as you're taking two of the best of the, you know, that there are, and the young guy and the old guy, and you can have that and on some other things like golf and such like that.
Nick, let me ask you this. You don't hear how much these NASCAR drivers make. You hear how much guys like Alex Rodriguez make. Does that make a difference in your opinion?
In some ways it does. I mean, you know, in baseball, all you do is swing a bat and hit a ball, but these guys in NASCAR, they go really fast. And I think they should be paid a little bit more because look at the danger when you're on the track. You have, what, 40-some cars, and you're going high rates of speed, and, you know, anything can happen on the track, but, you know.
Believe me, Nick, they are paid a lot of money. Let's go back to the phones. Bob, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Bob down in Berwick. Real quickly, what do you think? Are these guys athletes? Is it a sport?
Definitely it's an athlete. Anybody who can drive, you can take a ride in the summer and go 500 miles without stopping at a restroom break or getting something to drink, getting out of the car. Don't tell me these guys aren't athletes because it takes a lot of stamina and endurance to do that.
Joe, back to you. What do you think about the pay? I think NASCAR has done an unbelievable job of keeping the money, so to speak, out of it, of how much these guys make with their contracts compared to other sports. Do you agree?
I agree with that. You know, sometimes, like you said, with Alex Rodriguez and other baseball players, and like, you know, got guys like Mark Teixeira, and these guys are making over $20 million, and it's out there. As far as NASCAR, you know, if you know how to find stuff on the internet, you can find out how much some of these guys make, and like you said, it is astounding, especially with their contracts and sponsorships and things like that. But I agree with you as far as look at these guys as drivers. Don't look at them as a dollar sign and, you know, attach that to their name. Just look at these guys, in my opinion, as athletes instead of how much money they pull in.
All right, Joe, we have to take one more break. We'll be right back to wrap up tonight's edition of the WYOU Sports Interaction. We'll be right back.